I ignored his warning and still went clubbing with my friends. I didn't expect such revenge. Hey Reddit, my name is Sarah, female 29, and I have been dating William, male 35, for 2 years. Let me share with you my story of how I screwed up and ended up I'm such a mess. Let me give you a bit of a background of my life before it turned out this way. I met William during a business conference. Then he tried to be a snob. He was one of the vice presidents of our company. Of course, I did not know it at that point, so I glared at him angrily when he tried to steal my spot. During lunch, one of my colleagues mentioned that he was one of the most successful of all the higher-ups and was single. It was an ambitious goal, and I wanted to take as much advantage of my beauty as I could to shorten my success ladder. I know that approaching him in the guise of apologizing to him would not look suspicious. I entered and apologized to him for being so mean and offered to buy him a coffee. Obviously, there was no way I would let him know that I knew who he was. To my surprise, he accepted my apology for the coffee after the conference. I wanted to dress to impress, but I decided against it because I wanted him to completely believe that I had no idea about his true identity. I made sure to buy him a really cheap coffee to hone the idea that I was doing it out of guilt, and not because I wanted something out of it. I also made a point to keep our interaction brief and casual, not wanting to draw any attention to the situation. In the end, I was relieved that he seemed genuinely appreciative of the gesture, and we were able to move forward positively. We spoke about work and life in general. I could see that we had a lot of common values and beliefs. After a point, I genuinely forgot about my ulterior motives and was interested in him as a person. The conversation flowed so organically that I didn't have to make any extra efforts into getting him to like me. We were interrupted by a phone call that he received and had to leave. I told him that it was not a problem, and it was nice meeting him. As he left, he handed me his business card and told me to get in touch with him if I ever wanted to continue having another such conversation. After he left, I sat for a couple of minutes and was playing the conversation in my head. I was actually very happy with the way things were going. I'm glad that I did not have to make a ton of shit up just to impress him. I realized that being genuine and authentic was more important than trying to impress someone. His gesture of giving me his business card made me feel valued and respected. I decided to keep his card and reach out to him in the future for another conversation. I decided to take at least 1 week of time to send him a text just seeing if he remembered me and the conversation that we had. I sent him a text in the morning to check how soon he was going to reply on a busy working day. I wasn't surprised when I received his reply at night after he was done with all his work. He told me that he was glad I texted him as he had been waiting for my text since the time of our last conversation. I know that he was charming, smart, and a really good talker, so all of this would be so easy for him. I'll try not to reach too much into his flirtatious nature because I was sure that he thought the same way to every girl. It was a wonderful, very subtle manner trying to convey that I was not all that impressed by his sweet talk. He asked me if I was available over the weekend to go on a date. I was contemplating between denying or accepting his proposal, and I finally agreed to go on a date with him. I specifically mentioned to him that it was going to be very casual and not to read too much into it. He promised that it would be just a simple date without any expectations. I appreciated his understanding, and we ended up having a great time together. It was refreshing to go on a date without any pressure or expectations. When Saturday arrived, I put on a dress and very little makeup. He had sent me the location where we would be meeting as I insisted that I would like to come to the place on my own. He did not have much of an objection to it and very easily agreed to my demand. I reached the place and realized that it was a parking space with nothing much around it which could be date-worthy. I wondered if he sent me the wrong address by mistake. I was about to give him a call to reconfirm, but as I was pulling my phone out, I saw him walking towards me. He asked me to follow him and wasn't expecting me for the next half an hour, as most of the girls he had asked to meet on dates have always been fashionably late. He was glad that I respected the time that we agreed to meet and was even early. He took me to his car and asked me to get in. I love that I'm confused, but he asked me to trust him. We drove for another hour to reach the actual destination. It was a nice little picnic setting under the trees overlooking the river. He asked me to make myself comfortable on the chairs that he had placed under a tree. As we sat and waited for him, he started pulling out a few things from the boot and organizing them for us. After he was done with everything, he asked me to close my eyes and walk with him. When I opened my eyes, I saw a cute little table set up with food, fruits, and drinks. He further impressed me by telling me that all this food was prepared by him especially for me. I was so thrilled that I hugged him because I don't remember the last time someone did something like this for me. He was a little taken aback by the sudden influx of emotions. I quickly settled myself and thanked him for being such a nice host. We sat down and enjoyed our cute little picnic. We spoke on land about our passions, desires, and dreams. It did not feel like the second time that we were meeting. Everything looked so natural and so comfortable that we shared so much about our personal lives with each other. We did not even realize that it was already evening, and we had been talking through the entire morning till sunset. We both knew that it was time to leave, but we both did not want to leave each other. There was so much more to talk and discuss. Hesitantly, we both got up and started packing everything. We promised to meet again soon and try something like this again. After he dropped me at the parking spot where my car was waiting for me, I kissed him as a thank you for making my day so memorable. The sexual tension between us was at an all-time high ever since we met each other. I knew that if I stayed a little longer, things would get out of hand and it would ruin whatever we had so far. I quickly bid him goodbye and walked towards my car. I was about to start my car and drive off when I received a text from him asking me if I would want to spend the night with him. I so badly wanted to say yes to his invitation, but I knew that it would be too soon for it. I honestly wanted to take things slow and see how things naturally progressed between us. I replied with a polite decline, expressing my interest in getting to know him better before taking that step. I felt confident in my decision to prioritize building a strong foundation for our relationship. In the next few months, we went on a lot of dates and decided to officially start dating each other. It was a little difficult for us to make time for longer dates, or we can get away during specific times due to workload. William suggested that we should move in together so that we get to spend more time with each other. He said that it bothers him when we are unable to give time to each other and cancel our plans due to some unexpected work that had magically appeared. I gave it a thought and realized that it was not a bad idea. Who knows? This might turn into something more than just dating in the future. I was over the moon thinking about the possibilities moving in together would bring to our relationship. It took me almost a month to finally get all my stuff over to William's. We even had a mini party with our friends to celebrate the next step in our relationship. Everybody seemed so happy and thrilled for the both of us. The process of moving in together was surprisingly smooth, and we quickly settled into a routine that felt comfortable and natural. Our friends continued to be supportive and excited for us as we embarked on this new chapter in our relationship. The initial excitement of living together faded off very soon as we both got busy with our professional life. William had a project overseas for which he had to stay in a different country for a minimum of 3 months or until the project reached completion. Obviously, I wasn't happy, but there was nothing much I could do as I did not want to stand in between his professional growth. I did get a few bucks being the girlfriend of the vice president. I was promoted to manager and was more than often given special treatment and exceptions for being away from work. I enjoyed every bit of favoritism that came my way because I felt as if I deserved it. I took advantage of the situation and used my new position to network and build connections within the company. It was a win-win situation for me, as I was able to support my partner's career while also advancing my own. However, I eventually realized that my success should be based on my own merit and hard work, rather than relying on special treatment. I decided to focus on developing my skills and proving myself without any external advantages. William was back after 3 months to spend a few days with me as he had to rush back again for a few more months. In the months that William was away from home, I got used to a new routine which did not involve having William around. Now that he was back home, I felt a bit uneasy instead of being glad that he made time from his busy schedule for me. I didn't want to change much off my schedule just because he was around. I was looking hard at being in shape and developing a great work-life balance. I don't know why I started having this feeling that William might ruin the perfect life that I had created while he was away. I needed to find a way to communicate my feelings with him without causing any tension in our relationship. It was important for me to maintain my independence and continue working towards my personal goals, even with his presence back in my life. I thought of bringing it up over the weekend, but he had planned a perfect date, making sure to buy me a dress and everything, leaving small notes on how to get to him. It was like a treasure hunt, and so well executed that I could not ruin his excitement because of how I felt. I decided to wait until after the weekend to have a serious conversation with him about my feelings. I wanted to find a way to express myself honestly without overshadowing the effort he had put into planning our special day. William came back again after a month to give me a surprise. I already had plans of going clubbing with my friends. He asked me to ditch them as he would be in the city only for a week. I could have made changes to my plans, but I don't know why I didn't feel like living as per William and his desires anymore. It was not like William to boss me around, and he has never done that. All he did was try to request that I spend more time with him since he would be in the city only for a week. I don't know what came over me that I just did not want to agree to his wishes and stick to my own plans. I told William that there was no way that I could cancel my plans last minute just because he's in town. We will still get the next few days to spend with each other, so it would not be such a big deal for me to cancel my plans for him. I told him that I had been looking forward to winding down with my friends for such a long time, and now that it was finally happening, I did not want to ruin the fun by canceling at the last minute. William seemed pretty upset by my stance, and rightly so. He warned me that if I walked out of that door, he would break up with me and things would turn ugly. He couldn't be serious about breaking up over going clubbing with my friends. That would be so pretty. I could tell that he was bluffing and was trying every means to convince me to stay back with him. He looked so adorable and cute, but I knew that if I had to maintain an upper hand in this relationship, then I would have to stick to my plans and let him know he might be the boss. But I was the boss of our relationship. I kissed him goodbye and told him I would meet him probably late at night and we could snuggle and sleep. He looked disappointed and displeased by my adamant nature in this situation. He warned me again that I was not choosing the right thing, and this could come biting back at me. I told him to relax and take a rest till I was back, and we could catch up. I walked towards the door and closed it behind me. I met my friends at the entrance of the club and we made a dramatic entry. I had a wonderful time catching up with all my girlfriends, gulping down shots and dancing the night away. I even met a few people from work and mingled with them. I felt like I had finally gained control of my life and was doing the things that I enjoyed. I missed going clubbing and partying all night with my friends since I moved in with William. He was not much of a party person and preferred staying indoors. I was the more wild and outgoing of the two and always enjoyed having the spotlight on me. I had been missing this so badly, and I was glad that I stood up for myself and my happiness. I decided to have a conversation with William about finding a balance between our different social preferences. I realized that it was important for me to maintain my individuality and not lose sight of the things that brought me joy. I came back home early in the morning, then the club literally pushed us out and closed time. I was drunk as hell when I walked in. I do not even have the energy to change, so I just flopped on my bed and passed out. I got up around noon with a bad headache. I searched for some water and then slowly remembered that William was in town. I started searching for William around the house, but there was no sign of him. I looked at the time and assumed that he might have gone out to meet someone regarding work. It did bother me that he did not leave me a note or a message on my phone to let me know what he was up to. I decided that it was important for me to sober up before I start deducing theories. I first changed and then had a shovel and sat down with a hot cup of coffee. I tried calling William, but it went straight to his voicemail. I concluded that he might be in a meeting and would call me back once he was free. I did not think much of it and started on with my weekly pampering session. As I relaxed with a face mask on, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. I made a mental note to check in with William later to make sure everything was okay. I was still in my bathrobe when the doorbell rang. I quickly rushed to open the door as I knew that William was back, and I was just overthinking weird scenarios in my head. I opened the door to embrace him in a hug, but was surprised to see a few policemen at the door. They looked at me and asked me if I was Sarah. I was worried that maybe William was in trouble, or something must have happened to him. Was this the reason why he hadn't tried to reach me? They asked me to get dressed and come with them to the station. I couldn't think straight and did not even have the heart to ask what it was about. I grabbed whatever clothes I could find and left with them. I was super anxious my entire way, thinking of the worst possibilities. I followed the cops hurriedly, trying to calm myself down. I was asked to wait for a while and they would be ready for me in a few minutes. After waiting for almost 30 minutes, I was finally taken to another room where I saw William sitting on a chair, perfectly healthy. Not a single scratch on his body. I ran towards him and started hitting him with my hands, telling him how scared I had been the whole time. He pushed me away and told the cops that he confirms that this is the same person who had been impersonating his girlfriend while he was out of town. I stared at him in disbelief. I could not believe that William just acknowledged that I was impersonating his girlfriend while I was his girlfriend. He started sharing CCTV footage of me walking in and out of the house drunk last night. He said that he was clearly hacked and I had started using his house as a front to sell drugs. I had no words to say and I just kept staring at him in disbelief. Was this the same guy who I had been dating for the past couple of years? How could he accuse me of something so outrageous without any proof or backup? It was all bullshit that he was spitting out of his mouth. I tried to tell the cops that you were lying and that I was in fact his girlfriend. I pulled out my phone to show them pictures of us together to prove my point. Unfortunately, I couldn't find a single picture of us together, which was shocking. William further added that I was one of the employees at his company and had access to all his information. He thought that maybe that was where I received the information of his whereabouts and started using his house. I was only caught last night because he had mentioned his surprise visit, and I did not have the time to sneak out of his house on time. He also produced a packet of drugs that he said he discovered in the closet along with a few dresses. That is when he started digging further into the house to figure out what had been happening in his absence. I just kept staring at him in disbelief at all the nonsense he was screwing. This was definitely not the person I knew or had been dating for such a long time. I opened my mouth to defend myself, but the cops asked me to remain silent if I wanted to stay out of further trouble. I knew that I had very little say in any of this, so I decided to stay silent. William went on asking the cops to search his house for any trace of drugs, as he did not want to be in any trouble because of me. As expected, the cops took me along with William to the apartment we were staying in and inspected the house. They found a bunch of packets in my wardrobe tucked under my clothes. I was baffled to see the amount of lengths William has gone to get me into trouble. I tried to look at William for the next question, asking him what was going on, but he avoided my gaze. I tried experience with the cops that I was not aware of, and all of this stuff does not belong to me. I was handcuffed and taken to the prison where I would be held until either my charges were dropped, or they found new evidence of me being guilty. I had no other choice but to hire a lawyer to defend myself against the bogus starters that William had presented against me. I knew I needed to fight back and prove my innocence, even if it meant going through a lengthy legal process. The situation felt unfair and overwhelming, but I was determined to clear my name and seek justice. I was in prison for almost 2 weeks, after which I was able to get a bail. I still have no clue why William would try to do something like this. We had a pretty strong and stable relationship. They did not have any arguments as such, so there was no reason for him to trap me in a fake case. My lawyer suggested that I keep away from William and not contact him because it would get me into further trouble. I still went ahead and reached out to William as I needed to know the reason for his behavior. When I called, William picked up and asked me what I wanted. I told him that I needed answers for the way he has been behaving ever since he came back. He told me that his fine eyes are finally open and he can now see clearly. Previously, he was blinded by love, and so he could not distinguish if I was truly in love with him or using him. After a lot of deliberation, and had concluded that I was in fact using him for my own benefits. I could not believe that William would say something like that to me. I agree that the reason initially I approached him was because I wanted to get closer to him due to his position in the company, but I changed my mind after we went on a few dates and I started getting to know him. I decided to come clean to him about it so that he drops the charges and we could probably start over. Something at the back of my head told me that he already had an idea about me knowing his identity even before I approached him. I still want him to know from me about the truth of our first interaction. I just wanted him to believe me and drop the drug charges against me. I don't know why I had to justify myself after 2 years of dating him about how we met. I told him the entire truth about my ulterior motives, then I approached him. I also mentioned that I did not actually know who he was and I bumped into him. But after I got to know who he was, I wanted to take that as an excuse to try and converse with him. He said that he already knows about all of that, and there was no point for me in repeating all of that. I asked him then what was the reason for him to drag me into all this mess. We just laughed and admitted that he did not like the way I was thinking so highly of myself when everything that I had was because of him. He told me that I had suddenly started feeling superior in this relationship and wanted to show me my place. After I spoke to William, it was clear that there was no point in me going back to the apartment. I called in a few of my friends asking them if I could stay over for a couple of nights. Everybody had an excuse ready, which left me with no option but to find a cheap hotel for the time being. Since I have nothing better to do, I started gathering my thoughts and writing this post to give myself a bit of clarity of the entire situation. I still have no clue why William would have put some serious allegations on me when he had no reason to do so. We were not even in an argument that escalated so far that he would blame me for something that I hadn't done. I seek advice from you guys to let me know what you understand of this entire situation. I have no idea what made William flip, and what can I do to get out of this situation. Please let me know what the right way would be to approach William and try and talk some sense into him. I would appreciate any insights or suggestions on how to handle this delicate situation with William. It's important for me to address this issue calmly and effectively in order to resolve any misunderstandings or false accusations. Update. I appreciate everybody without their time out and reading my post and providing more suggestions to sort out the situation. I am overwhelmed with the amount of love and support I've received from you guys, which has motivated me to keep fighting for myself. Your kindness and encouragement mean the world to me, and I am truly grateful for every one of you. Your words have given me strength during this challenging time, and I am so thankful for your unwavering support. Life has been tough since William's allegations against me. I was denied my access to work in the company due to the current case against me. They had given me an infinite leave till either the charges were dropped or I was proven guilty. I was taken back into custody because of no evidence that was found in my locker at my office. They also had a few witnesses who were willing to testify that I had been supplying them with drugs. This entire case was going insane and kept blowing out of proportion every time they discovered something new. Of course, I was fired for supplying drugs at work. I wasn't going to be getting any severance pay or any other types of benefits because there was a criminal case going on against me. Within a span of 1 month, I lost my boyfriend, a place to live, my job, and my dignity. It was difficult for me to survive, let alone afford a lawyer to take my case. I felt like my entire world was crumbling around me, with no support system in sight. I had never imagined my life would spiral out of control so quickly. William had used all his contacts to make sure I was stuck in this case, and nobody but gave me a decent job that would help me hire a lawyer. I was stuck with living in a basement room and working part-time jobs to make a living and manage my expenses. All my clothes that were at William's apartment had been confiscated by the cops for further investigation. I had to make do with whatever little I could earn, as all my bank accounts were also frozen till further notice. All my friends had turned their back on me because they feared being involved in a drug case, or were threatened by William to have their life ruined if they tried to help me out. I had nowhere to go and no one to support me in these difficult times. I sometimes even thought of going and begging to William to stop all this, and I would do whatever it takes for all of this to be gone. But I did have a little of my self-respect intact, at least for now, so I decided to keep fighting until I couldn't anymore. I knew that giving in to William's threats would only make things worse in the long run, so I resolved to stay strong and find a way out of the situation on my own. Despite feeling alone and overwhelmed, I refused to let fear dictate my actions and was determined to seek help and find a solution. I had to fight for almost a few months to have all the charges against me dropped. It did leave me drained and hopeless with my life. I had nothing important to do after getting out of prison. There was no one waiting for me and I had no home or job to go to. I won the case but lost my sense of living after the ordeal I had gone through. I still did not get closure from my relationship with William. I couldn't wrap my head around the idea that just because I was trying to make my mark in a relationship, how could a person send me to prison on fake cases? Could there not have been even a single moment when he actually loved and cared about me? Had he not thought that he was taking it too far by causing a serious impact to my reputation? Or did he just not care? All these thoughts made it difficult for me to sleep or rest. I still had to report every month for the next 6 months where I would be tested for drugs, and my house scanned to give me a final green chit. I wanted to have a face-to-face chat with William to try and understand why he caused such a huge havoc in my life. I tried calling him and he asked me to stop obsessing over him. He knew from the beginning that I was a gold digger and he only gave me what I deserved. He blocked me after that, which caused further rage and led me to be disappointed in myself. I was diagnosed with clinical depression and had been undergoing treatment for it. I had developed suicidal tendencies and decided to help myself to turn my life around. The therapy helped me believe that I could start over and make a positive impact in my life little by little. I still had thoughts of my past life at times when I sat alone thinking to myself. I could not believe that William would be such a narcissist that he would ruin my entire life just because I was trying to gain reins in our relationship. It was petty of him to try and control me, and when he couldn't, then frame me so that I realized that I should not have gone against his will. How could I be so wrong in judging a person's character and live for the person for almost more than a year without knowing his true nature? Was I so blinded by love and all the good things that came along with his name that I couldn't understand his true character? How he was such a devil behind that handsome mask. All I ever did was make my life a priority and run with the plans that I had already committed to during his presence. How could that have offended him to such an extent that he files charges of trespassing, illegally occupying his property, and even selling drugs? I could not tell that this was the same person who would try and do anything to make me happy. It was a shock to realize that his true intentions were so malicious, especially after all the effort I had put into our relationship. I never imagined he would turn on me in such a drastic way, revealing his true nature as a manipulative and deceitful individual. I'm picking up pieces from my life and trying to make the best of it. The charges have been dropped against me, but it cost me my life and career. I was given a clean chit, and the state had even given me access to leave the city as and when I pleased. I was proud of myself for going through all these tough times all by myself without any help and support. I knew that turning my life around would be difficult, but not impossible for me. I knew I had to do major changes in my personality and chain of thought before I got ready to start looking for a decent job. I promised myself that never again will I go after a rich guy with a motive behind it. I've learned a hard lesson by dating William and trying to maintain my independence as a person. I can't be a puppet of a person and live my entire life. I have realized the importance of self-respect and standing up for myself, no matter the circumstances. Moving forward, I will prioritize my own well-being and happiness above all else. I will focus on building a strong sense of self-worth and pursuing relationships based on mutual respect and genuine connection. It's time for me to prioritize my own emotional health and not compromise my values for the sake of someone else's wealth or status. To the people reading my story, please be cautious of such narcissistic men who try to make you think that you are everything to them, and when things don't go in their favor, they turn the table 360 against you. Please believe in your own self and your talents and try not to take shortcuts. It might take a while to get where you wish to be, but that is far better than relying on someone else. Remember that you are worthy of love and respect, and never settle for someone who manipulates or disrespects you. Stay true to yourself and your values and surround yourself with people who uplift and support you. Remember that true happiness comes from within and not from external validation. Trust in your own abilities and stay focused on your goals, even when faced with challenges. You deserve to be treated with kindness and respect, so never compromise your self-worth for anyone else's approval. Thank you all so much for the support, without which I would not have been able to fight and overcome the dark clouds that were looming over me. Your encouragement and love have truly been my guiding light during this difficult time. I'm forever grateful for each and every one of you.